For today's review, we are looking at the Marvel Legends Agent Venom from the recent Spider-Man retro carded wave. Now, before taking a look at the accessories and the figure, let's take a quick look at the packaging that he comes in. And it is this nice retro carded style packaging, which is really cool. And I love the giant plastic window here because you can see the figure and all the accessories that are included. On the back, you do have an image of the figure, but it's a render photo, not exactly the actual figure itself. And on the bottom, it's the same. These are all render photos for the other characters in this wave. And that's kind of the one thing that I don't like about the back part of this packaging is that they don't use actual figure photography. I wish they did because that would make it even more nostalgic. But the fact that they don't, it's kind of sad. There is a read-up on the back here, and I'll read it really quickly. It says, when Flash Thompson bonds with an alien parasite suit, he's granted spider-like powers as Agent Venom. And lastly, if you are still trying to track this figure down because you haven't found it, here is the barcode for this item. And there it is, the packaging. Now let's bring the figure back in. And now let's talk about accessories that are included with this figure. And the first two accessories that I will talk about are his hands. So he does have two trigger finger hands that are meant for holding guns because he does have guns, right? Those are his primary weapons. So there's that. And he also comes with these other 4 sets of hands. So he has 2 pairs of fist hands. So if you don't want him to use any weapons, you want him to throw down with just fists, you have that option. He also comes with these 2 hands that I like to call the grabbing hands because that's what they look like. So he has like the claws and he's like grabbing. I mean, what else are these for? Because they're not really climbing hands, because if they were, the thumb would be sculpted a little bit further back this way so it mimics like he's, you know, wall climbing, but he's not. So yeah, I like to call these the grabbing hands. So there's that as well if you want to use those hands. And of course, he does have weapons. And the first of these weapons is this handgun. Don't know what type of handgun this is, but it's pretty cool. If you are a customizer, these 2 guns definitely could use a little bit more paint to make them look more detailed. So there's that. And also, he does have a holster, so you can actually store the handgun in that holster so you don't lose it. So that is really nice of them to also have that on the figure. And of course, he also comes with the big gun. I don't know what this is. You know, a lot of these guns are fictional, so this could be like a mix between like a shotgun and an assault rifle. I don't freaking know. But again, I like the sculpting on it. I like the details. But it definitely could use more paint. So I would prefer like a gunmetal fadedness on it because that would make it look even better. So yeah, there's that. And the last accessory he includes is the unmask head. And I will talk a little bit more about this later in the video because I want to save my thoughts for that. It is a good looking head sculpt, but it does kind of look like somebody, an actor. There's the hint for that. Okay, before we talk about that, of course, let's talk about the aesthetics of the figure. And I think this figure came out pretty cool looking. They did a really good job with this one in terms of like capturing what he looks like in the comic. And yeah, it is a very nice looking Marvel Legend figure. You know, sometimes Hasbro, when they're not lazy, they put out like a really nice looking figure. And then sometimes when they are lazy, it just looks like poop. In this case, this is like a really nice looking Marvel Legend figure, in my opinion. It still has, of course, slight QC problems when it comes to paint applications in some places. For some reason, it's not just Hasbro. McFarlane has this problem too. Whenever they use white color paint, there's always like QC issues. And I don't know if my camera is going to pick up on it, but like you can see like these little paint splotches, right? Like I don't like the fact that those are there, but you know, this is the common issue with like white paint for some reason. So yeah, not great, but at least it's not too visible from a distance. Um, but I like the fact that everything is, you know, painted nicely. The lines are all matching, and yeah, the giant spider logo in the center, and then it goes all the way down to his upper thighs here, right? And they also go on the back as well, so you have a back part of the logo. Really neat. He does have sculpting going on in some places, like you can see with these spikes here. They're not really spiky, but like, you know, they look like spikes. And they're really nicely sculpted, and they match up with these texture lines here. And this is an example of a comic book figure having more sculpted details instead of just being all flat, right? I like this, like the shoulder armors being here, and these shoulder armors are part of the arm. They're not connected to the torso, so if you're going to articulate this figure, you're not going to have any issues with this getting in the way of the arm. And down here, you know, these spike patterns continue with his boots. So really cool. Like I really like this. And there is more like grid lines sort of, you know, things going on here. He does have a belt that has all these like little straps to it with these pockets that he can put his ammunition in, his holster, right? Like these type of straps are not new. And yeah, overall, these details are really nice. The one problem is, of course, is that because they're all using the same color paint, it really does hide a lot of the details. But again, this is not the fault of Hasbro. This is just what the character design looks like in the comic. And a lot of these details are going to be hidden. However, if you are a customizer and you do know how to make these pop, even without changing too much of the black color paint, definitely something you could probably do. And I'm not a customizer, so I don't really know how to make these stand out more, but, you know, I'm fine with the way it is. I actually like the way it came out as a figure in terms of how they sculpted it, so there's that. And now, let's talk about this head sculpt. This head sculpt is the only thing that's very simple because it is a mask. Like he's wearing a mask that covers his entire face, and it's good enough. You know, that is what he looks like. So there's that. And that is all the details and aesthetics that I can talk about when it comes to the figure. Now let's talk about that other head sculpt. And actually, let's get that other head sculpt on this body. Let me just change it really quickly. Now we can look at that unmasked head sculpt. Now, this unmasked head is pretty accurate to what he looks like in the comic, because that is what Flash Thompson looks like in this particular version of how he's drawn. And, you know, I think they did a pretty good job with the head sculpt, right, for an unmasked head. Now, does it feel too big on this body? Kinda. Because, you know, when the mask is on, it does look smaller than when he has the mask off. So it does kind of feel like this head is a little bit too big for this torso. So there's that little flaw right there. But, you know, if you can look past it, you're okay with it. And also, you know, I don't know if they'll ever make another Agent Venom figure anytime soon because it's like the most recent one. I think tiny little issues like this, you know, it's fine. It's not like the end of the world. To me, I can look past it because, you know, it doesn't look too far off. So, and now I want to get to the other point that I want to make about this head sculpt. A certain actor. Does this not look like Aaron Eckhart, the guy who played Two-Face in The Dark Knight? I mean, I literally searched up a Google image photo of the actor when I saw this head sculpt, like when I took everything out of the box. And I was just like, I can't unsee it. Like, it looks like him. And I did like a, you know, a side-by-side comparison of this head sculpt to, the actor's face. And it does kind of share some likenesses with the actor, like coincidentally. I don't think it was intentional. I just think that it's kind of funny how it looks like him. The only difference between the actor and this, head sculpt of Flash Thompson here is that his eyes are blue and the actual actor's eyes are not blue. But it has the same, this head sculpt, right? The nose and the jawline is very similar to Aaron Eckhart. I can't unsee it, and the likeness is almost there. So that's my opinion of this head sculpt. It is a good head sculpt, and hey, if they really wanted this head sculpt to be modeled after Aaron Eckhart, that means one of the sculptors over there loves his movies. Yeah, so that's what that head sculpt reminds me of, a certain actor there. And yeah, that's basically everything in terms of aesthetics. Now, let's talk about articulation. And we're going to start with the one thing that I don't like right off the bat. So as you can see, he does have a upper diaphragm cut where he can articulate, like this, right? He can rotate. He does not have rotation down here underneath this waist part. There is no articulation. It is literally just one solid piece. I don't like the fact that there's no waist rotation. This is the one time where they could have actually included waist rotation underneath the belt, because they sculpted this entire belt piece and it could have been the thing that hid the articulation point down here. But the fact that there is no movement at all down here sucks, because if you're trying to get them into some cool action poses, you're so limited in doing so because you only have the upper movement here, but with no movement down here. And look, if you're not going to give him waist cut so he can rotate, at least use the hinge. This is the one time where the hinge would have been very beneficial, right? They have articulation up here and the hinge. And they done this with a recent Venom figure. I believe it was a Walmart exclusive Marvel Legends retro carded Venom. He had an updated buck where he had the uppercut and he had the hinge. I don't know why they couldn't have incorporated the hinge for this figure, because it's the one time where I actually would have preferred if there was the hinge so he can lean back and forth. But the fact that he can't even lean back and forth, actually, he can up here, but I'm saying it would be better if he had it down here as well, so you have that double combination and articulation. So basically everything for this figure rests on the fact that he's leaning forward from up here and back like this, but he can't even lean that back. As you can see, he's very limited to how far he can lean back, which is not a lot. In terms of leaning forward, he actually can lean forward pretty good, surprisingly. But again, the hinge would have also helped as well in this case. So this is the one area that I don't like. The fact that it could have been done better, but they chose not to. As for his head, it can look up, not too bad. You can't really look down because the collar thing also gets in the way, and also the neck is embedded in there. But in terms of looking up, you can definitely look up. And if you need him to, lean back a little bit, which he barely can, but that can also help as well. But he doesn't really need that because he can look up. Now, if you want him to look down, well, this is the one time where leaning forward could also help as well. So there's that. As for his arms, they do go out all the way. And as you can see, this doesn't get in the way of the arm because this is a softer piece. And this is part of the arm, so he can also rotate. Really good. And he does have double jointed in the arms. And he also has rotation at the hands. And there is I believe, are there hinges on these? Yes, there are hinges on these. My copy is still new, so these don't really move, but they should move if you heat them up. So they do have a hinge. And for his legs down here, He does kick out pretty good. He does have double jointed in the legs, which is also very nice. And he does have feet articulation, but it's hindered by this piece down here. So you're not going to really get much movement in the feet because of this upper part right here. And let me see if there's any more articulation. Oh, there is, of course. He does have die cuts. They are hidden right here, which is actually really cool that they're kind of hidden away by these straps. So I do like the fact that they try to hide it. And of course, last but not least, can he do the splits? Not a full split, but that is still pretty good in terms of, you know, getting his legs spread out like that. So very, very, very nice as I'm trying to speak here. Okay. And I think that's basically everything, right? In terms of articulation. Okay, that is everything. Before I show him holding some of his weapons and all that stuff, let's do one quick comparison here. So we're going to start with, of course, there he is with Fortnite Girl for fun. And he's taller than her. And then there he is next to the Renew Your Vows Spider-Man figure. Also very nice. And this is like my only Spider-Man figure from the recent Marvel Legends batch of Spider-Man figures. I don't have any other Spider-Man figure at the moment. But I'm happy with this one because this figure is actually not bad at all. So there's that. And the last comparison here is going to be with Ken from the Jada Toy Street Fighter line. And yeah, he's taller than Ken. So there you go. That is all the comparisons. And let's do some action poses, I guess. So before we do that, though, let me just show this. So how you put the gun in his holster is very easy. You just slide it in like that. And there you go. And let me get him to hold the gun, the big one. And let me just put this in. Sometimes it can be a hassle. There you go. Now rotate the arms. Oh, I forgot to show the articulation. The arms up here also have the swivel. I almost forgot about that. Yeah, there it is. The swivels too. So there we go. Let me get this other hand to hold said gun really quickly off camera, because this is something that you gotta fidget with sometimes. It could be a pain. Okay, I'm gonna zoom out of this, and basically, yeah, you can get him into some really cool dynamic poses if you want to. And for my copy, his like joints are really nicely like stiff, but they're not like loose either. So, you know, they can do everything you need. And I like when joints are not loose, because when they're super loose, it kind of sucks. But again, this is what I'm talking about, right? Like, if he had waist rotation down here, it would make a lot of these poses even better. The fact that he doesn't, you know, it just really hinders the poses you can get him into. But again, for some of these poses, right, like you can do a leap pose where he's like jumping up and he's like about to like attack his enemy, or you can do this where he's leaning this way, like he's like dropping down from somewhere, right, about to like, you know, take out an enemy. However you want to pose this guy, you know, you have the options. But again, this area down here, this is the problem I have with this figure. So, and that is basically the only thing I don't like about this figure. But in terms of everything else that they did, this is a solid Agent Venom figure for what it is, I guess, from Hasbro. I don't know if we're going to get another one in the future. Probably we will. Will it be better than this one? Maybe. Who knows? You know, they always tend to do this, right? They release another version, and down the line, they make a better one. But for now, this is probably the best Agent Venom figure that Hasbro has put out. I would say that it's worth the pickup if you do need an Agent Venom for your shelf. Let's just put it that way. Is it the best Marvel Legend figure? No. It is good enough for the job. That is going to be my final verdict on this figure. And if you found today's review of Agent Venom informative, do give this video a like. If you want to subscribe to the channel to see more action figure content, whether that's talking about Marvel Legends, DC Multiverse, or whatever else I review, or even my Transformers Forge of Fight content, if you play that game, you can subscribe. You don't have to. In the end of the day, I make these videos for fun. And with that said, take care, and I will see you in the next video.